everyone, today I'm here to share with you all of the books I read in February. So I read 11 books in February, which is a lot considering it's the shortest month of the entire year. Am I right about that? I think I'm right about that. So as always, I'm going to start with my stats for the month. So like I said, I read 11 books. I read 4 YA books. Of those 4 YA, 3 of those were contemporary and 1 of them was historical fiction. Then I read 7 adult books, and of those adult books, 5 of them were women's fiction slash chick lit-y, and 2 of them were literary fiction and also kind of historical in a way. Genres are hard, guys. As far as star rating goes, for 1 star, I had 0 books that were 1 star. I had 1 book that was a 2 star, which is never a good thing. I had 3 books that were 3 stars, which is kind of the average for me. I had 4 books that were 4 stars, and I had 3 books that were 5 stars. So overall, a pretty good month. So as always, again, I'm going to start with my least favorite book, working up to my favorite that I read this month. So my 2-star read this month is Heartland by Kimberly Stewart. I buddy read this with Chelsea over at Chelsea Darling Reads during the Contemporary-thon, and I think we both 2-starred it. I think we both also thought it was going to be something different than what it was. To me, this book sounded like the plot of Sweet Home Alabama, the movie that Reese Witherspoon was in, where she's a, big fashion designer, then she gets engaged, and she has to go back home to her very, very small town in the country. And this one kind of had the same vein about that. We follow a character that is a big fashion designer and has to go back home because she loses her job, and it's a small town in Iowa, and she kind of falls in love with her high school sweetheart over again. So my main qualm with this book, and why I gave it a 2-star, was nothing really happened. There was no real oomph to the storyline, honestly. Like, I just wanted it to be more. It was just too boring in my opinion, and I don't want to say that. It was definitely my least favorite read of the month, sadly. I wanted to really love it. I really did, but sadly I didn't. Now moving on to my 3 stars. I have 3 of these. The first one being Small Town Hearts by Lily Vale. This is a YA contemporary book, and this is all about our main character Babe, who lives in a very small town in Maine, and she really loves her small town, but not a lot of her friends do. They want to kind of move on and go to college and move away from there. Babe loves working there. She has a great time working at this coffee shop. She has an ex-girlfriend that has moved away but has now come back for the summer, and Babe meets a guy that is a summer boy, which is very popular for their place they live. I have summer people come in all the time for just the summer, and she falls in love with a summer boy, and that's pretty much what the book is about. Again, like the last one I talked about, there wasn't a lot that happened with it. For me, what made me give it 3 stars was just the overall coffee shop. I am a sucker for books that take place in coffee shops, bakeries, any sort of baked goods or food related, coffee related, I am there for. But I've noticed though, I love those type of books, but I never truly actually love them. All the books that I've read where it's in those settings, I've given like 3 stars maybe. I rarely give 4 or 5 stars to them. So I love reading about them, but I don't love the book overall, if that makes any sense. It probably doesn't. So overall, it was a 3 out of 5. I'd say it's a cute summer read. If you love contemporary, definitely pick it up. If not, maybe skip on it. Overall, it was just a solid 3-star. Except for 3 stars, I have Fame, Fate, and the First Kiss by Casey West. I have read every single one of Casey West's books before. I have a whole video talking about all about her books. You can see it right there. I usually really love them. There are some that I don't love, and this is one that I did not love. It was all about this main character who was a movie star, or she's an up-and-coming movie star rather, should I say, and she's starring in this zombie film with a really big actor who's very well known. She's also in high school and she's not doing so well, so her dad hires a tutor named Donovan to kind of teach her, and of course that forms a relationship. But it's all about her being on set and making a movie while also being a high school student and just trying to balance regular life too. I just didn't love this one. It wasn't, I think, an amazing Casey West book, sadly, and I've read all of them. There are some that I love, that I truly love, but this one was one of my least favorite ones, mainly because I didn't love the main character, wasn't really invested in the love interest. It was cute, I'm not going to deny that, but I just didn't love it. I buddy read this with Amy over A Court of Crowns and Quills and Mel to the Any, and I think it was their first Casey West book, and they both liked it but didn't love it, so I think hopefully they're going to read more Casey West books. I hope so, because this one I think is one of her not the best ones. I know I'm so bad, but I love her books. You guys know that. They're like, oh, there's bobby pin that's hanging down on my hair. No, I love her books. This one I just didn't love, so I gave it a 3 I just didn't love it. I wanted more from it. If you are looking to get into Casey West, I highly recommend reading P.S. I Like You or Listen to Kurt. Those are some of my favorite ones, so this one is not one of them. And my last 3 stars, Intercepted by Alexa Martin. This is an adult chick lit contemporary type of book, and this one's a football romance, and we follow Marley, who has a boyfriend that is in the Detroit Lions, and he is just the worst, and she finds out that he has been cheating on her, so she decides to leave him, and then she kind of falls in love with another one of his teammates, a new teammate that she kind of had a steamy time with a long time ago, and it's all about that. I really enjoyed this one. I don't read too many sports romances and football romances at that, but I loved this one. It was very steamy. I love the relationship. I love how strong-willed Marley was as a character. I loved reading all about the football dynamics. Take it from me as someone that does not like football at all, really. I'm more of a baseball fan. I say that because my husband's a baseball fan, but I'm just not into sports, okay? But I really enjoyed it. I'd say if you love steamy books and if you love romance, especially with sports involved and just a really good relationship, I would recommend this one. I put it up if I wasn't cutting out my half stars, I would gladly give this 3.5 stars, maybe even higher, because I did really enjoy it. I do really want to read her sequel to this or companion novel very, very soon, but highly recommend it. Really enjoyed it. Makes me want to read all the sports romance books. To 4 stars, the first book I want to talk about is 99% Mine by Sally Thorne. I have a video review dedicated to this book, so if you want to see it, it'll be right here. This is her kind of follow-up to The Hating Game. It's not a sequel, it's just her next book. A lot of people don't like this book. I understand why. I don't think I disliked it as much as other people, but let's just say I did not love it as much as The Hating Game. I don't think it comes close to The Hating Game, but I liked it for what it was. This is about a main character named Darcy, who is a very tough-edged girl, very tough. She's a bartender, she travels a lot, she does all these things, and she lives at her grandmother's house, and her grandmother has passed away, and they're redoing the house pretty much. And it comes in Tom, who is her twin brother's best friend, and she's always loved Tom, but they've never really got together, but now they're in an abandoned house and redoing a house, and you know, tension is alive. Let's just say that. This book, I did not have enough steaminess as I wanted to. I didn't love the main characters. I didn't love the romance as much. I wasn't a huge fan of the main character Darcy a ton. Overall, it wasn't like The Hating Game, but not every book an author writes is going to be exactly a replica of their previous one. That could never happen, but I liked it for what it was. I gave it a 4 stars, probably on the lower end of a 4 stars, but I enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy it as much as other people, and yeah, I think that's all I have to say about it. Check out my single review for more. I have The Evidence of the Affair by Jenkins Reid. This was a short story of hers that I read. It's 100 pages. I gave it 4 stars. This is told in all letters. I think it's either told in the 60s or 70s. I can't remember, but basically a wife finds out that her husband has been cheating on her because she finds a letter from this woman. And then she learns that that woman is actually married. So she decides, the wife that's been cheated on, I know it gets hard, she decides to write a letter to the husband of the mistress, I guess you could say. And she's like, hey, just letting you know that my husband and your wife are having an affair. And then they start a correspondence because, you know, both of their spouses are having an affair and they can relate to each other. And that is what the book is. And that is what the short story is about, pretty much in a nutshell. I don't want to say anything more because it is only 100 pages. I really enjoyed it. I think Jenkins Reid writes, I am there for it. I love it. I'm obsessed with it. I didn't love this one though, sadly, because of the ending. It was very jarring, very open-ended. I wanted more. I would love to see this crafted as a full-length novel, but overall, I really enjoy it. If you're a fan of Jenkins Reid, highly recommend it. If you're a fan of short stories, highly recommend it as well. The star book I have to talk about is I Owe You One by Sophie Kinsella. I listened to this book on audiobook. This follows a main character named Fixie. She works at her family's general store, and she has 2 younger siblings, and their father has died a long time ago, so it's basically like their family store, and they're trying to really, you know, honor their dad a lot. And Fixie just wants to fix everything. She wants to make everybody happy, and she has really horrible siblings. She also has a relationship with this guy that she has been coveting since high school, who is just not the best. And overall, I wanted to love this book because you guys know I love Sophie Kinsella. She writes amazing chick lit books that make me laugh. This one made me angry because of the side characters. They were all horrible. Her siblings were horrible. Her love interest at the beginning was horrible. Even her new love interest I wasn't invested in. I just wanted this to be more. I was expecting to love this book because I've noticed when I read her books, there's a trend, like, when I read My Not So Perfect Life, I gave it a 5 stars, but then I read Surprise Me. Didn't love that one, so I thought this one would be on track for a 5 stars for sure, but it wasn't. I'd say if you love Sophie Kinsella, definitely read this book. If not, if you're just looking for a funny chick lit book, yeah, definitely check it out. But it wasn't one of my favorites by her, I will say. It's not one of my least favorites, but I just wanted more from it. It made me really angry how selfish a lot of the characters were in this book and how naive Fixie was, honestly. It was just not the best, but I gave it a 4 stars because it thoroughly entertained me, and I just love her writing style, honestly, throughout it. My last 4-star book is going to just prepare your hearts a little bit, protect it for a little bit, because I feel like I'm about to emotionally hurt you a little bit. My last 4-star read of the month is The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. Guys, I struggled with this book. This is a rare few of books that I finished that I have really had a hard time completing. I did not love this book as much as I wanted to. I had a really hard time, I think, mostly with the format of this book. This is a YA historical fiction book, I think, and it's pretty much told from Death's perspective. I'm not yet, when Death has a story to tell. It's all about this character, the book thief Liesel, who is growing up in Germany in the 40s during World War II. She's with foster parents, and her foster parents kind of her foster parents hide a Jew in their basement named Max, and it's basically about Liesel's story, but Death is telling it, and it's all about that. The format of this book, I think you're either gonna really, really love it or you're not gonna connect with it all. I am one of the rare few that did not connect well with the format of it. It was jarring to me. I could not get used to it. I was very perplexed, very confused throughout reading this book. There were some sections I absolutely loved and connected with and just felt on like an amazing level, but most of the time, I did not love this book. I love the story that it told. I love the importance, because any book about World War II, when it talks about the Jews and how they were treated horribly in the war in general, is a very important read in that regard. But overall, I did not love this book. And I know I'm like the 1 in 100 that doesn't love The Book Thief. I didn't like hate it by any means. I'm giving it a 4 stars, but I just struggled with it. It took me well over half the book to get invested into the storyline, and then I was still struggling with it throughout the entirety of it. So overall, I did not love this book. I'm sad. I'm really sad about that. I thought I would fall in love with this book and everybody would love it. I did. I feel so horrible for saying that, because everybody and their mother loves this book. I didn't. I really enjoyed it. I just didn't love it. Let me just preface it by that. So yes, I know you're going to hate me. You're going to unsubscribe. I understand. Everyone's got their own opinions, guys. It's okay. Nobody's more sad about not loving it than myself. So either way, I read it, so that's good. Lastly, let's talk about my 5 stars. I have 3 of those. The first one being Forever Interrupted by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I buddy read this with Amy over at Quarter Crowns and Quills during the Contemporary-thon, and I think she 4-starred it. I 5-starred it because I just love anything this author writes. It's ridiculous. This one is her saddest book to date. If you think all of her books have a little bit of sadness in them, you're correct about that. But this one, it was straight up sad from beginning to end. I cried throughout the entirety of it. I don't cry a lot in books. I sobbed like a freaking baby from beginning to end, because this is all about a main character named Elsie, who she meets a character named Ben, and they fall in love, whirlwind romance. They move in within a matter of months, and they get married within 6 months. And during the first week of them being married, Ben gets killed in a car accident, and Elsie doesn't know what to do. She meets her mother-in-law for the first time, who didn't even know they were married, let alone even know that her son was dating somebody. So it's all about Elsie, learning to deal with grief, learning how to be a widow, learning how to have a relationship with her mother-in-law. It's sad from beginning to end. I don't believe me. Go watch my Contemporary-a-thon vlog, because I vlogged right after I finished it. I was sick and I just finished this book, so I was crying. I looked horrible. You want to talk about authentic feelings? that was authentic. Next up, I have A Heart in the Body of the World by Deb Coletti. I finally read this book. I am so glad I did because this was amazing. Talk about an underrated, undersung book here on BookTube. This is one of them. This follows our main character named Annabelle, who something has happened to her in her life. You as the reader do not know it. You take the journey along with her when she, you know, kind of just unfolds of what happened to her. Let me just say, you can pretty much guess, I'll tell you that, but she wants to make a difference. She lives in Washington State, so she decides to run to Washington, D.C. to make a difference because of this thing that has happened to her in her life. So basically her grandpa takes her in his RV and like he drops her off and she runs like 20 miles a day and then they team up together, and it's basically about her cross-country running trip, and it was beautifully told. Every chapter starts with like facts about the heart, whether it be like the actual heart or songs about the heart. It was just a very beautiful, impactful read. I would highly recommend it. It just won the Prince Award if I'm not mistaken, but it was just beautifully told. Not a lot of people are talking about this here on BookTube. I don't understand, because it was just so amazing and so impactful, and I highly recommend anyone reading this. It is just, it's a book that will definitely be on my favorites at the end of the year. And my favorite book of the month is Davy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is her latest release that is, I think by the time you're seeing this, it comes out today. So happy book birthday. Amazing friend Amy over at Amy Reads lent me her ARC, so thank you so much, Amy. And this book is set in the 70s, and it follows the band of the Six, who were a really popular band, and then they collaborated with Davy Jones, who was a singer, and they teamed up together and really rose to stardom, and they released this album. They got crazy like wildfire, and then they broke up all of a sudden, and nobody knows why until this book. So this book is told in all interview format, honestly, and it's a little bit jarring at first. I will say the first 25%, I was very worried I was not going to love this book because it's all in interview format. You get to hear from every member of the Six, you get to hear from Davy Jones, you get to hear from like Rolling Stone, photographers. It's just, there's no regular page of like a book, I guess you could say, a traditional book format, but I was worried I wasn't gonna love it. But after the 25% mark, I fell in love with this book. Again, like Evelyn Hugo, after I finished this book, I Googled the Six, I Googled Davy Jones because I thought they were real and I wanted to listen to every single one of their songs, watch their performances, but then I realized, oh, they're fictional, not real at all. So I love this book. It was amazing. I will say it takes place in the 70s. So there's a lot of drug use, there's a lot of sex talk, there's a lot of really controversial things because it is the 70s, especially about the music industry. But I loved it. Overall, Taylor Jenkins Reid crafted an amazing story that I am obsessed with. It's very Fleetwood Mac-esque too. I think this book is kind of loosely inspired by them and the history of Fleetwood Mac. So I would recommend it. If you're thinking this will be your first Taylor Jenkins Reid book, do not do that because this is so different from all of her other books. I would not recommend you start with this. I do have a video review going up for this particular book tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that if you want to hear more of my really in-depth thoughts about it. Look out for my Taylor Jenkins Reid author video where I talk about all of her books, what they are all about, my least favorite to my favorite. It's a long video, but it's a good one. So if you are interested in diving into the world of Taylor Jenkins Reid, be sure to watch that video coming out this week. But overall, loved it, 5 stars. So there you have it. Those are the 11 books that I read this month. That's a really good month for me. I do not think every month is going to be like that. I think I read a lot because I read a lot of contemporary books because I fly through those like insanity. So if you've read any of these books, I would love to hear your thoughts on them. Please leave them down below. Again, look out for my Taylor Jenkins Reid video coming out at the end of this week. I'm so excited for you guys to see that. I think that's it. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.